Okay, thank you, everybody, and welcome back. It's been a long meeting. We've got a little bit more to go. Where we left off, the next item on the agenda is 13.7, which is a staff report to with options to fill the vacancy of the office of the Ward 4 councillor. So we don't have any delegations on that at this time. So I'll send it over to council. Councillor Silovitz, you had pulled this, so you want to get the ball rolling?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to staff for bringing this, the clerk and staff to bring this forward. We have a decision to make, and I have read this report, and I believe that given the circumstances where we are right now, timing wise, and just after a by-election coming up to a general election for the municipality, I do believe that option one, to appoint a qualified individual to fill the vacancy, is our best and only choice. So I have discussed this with Mayor West and the city clerk, and I've asked Stephen to prepare a motion that would mirror option one. So once we have that on the floor, if I could get a second, and then we can have the discussion. It's a minimal cost to the city, which is good. We've done this before, and I believe it can be done again very successfully. The only difference at the moment is that we are still in some pandemic protocols. And so there it is. Let's see. Councillors, so it's option 1A, that staff report SRCFS 22004 regarding options to fill the vacancy in the office of Ward 4 councillor be received. That's in front of us. B, that the vacancy in the office of Ward 4 councillor be filled by appointing any qualified individual to fill the vacancy, that the clerk be directed to schedule a hybrid special council for the purpose of appointing a current member of council, appointing a
My apologies. Yes, my apologies.
Yeah. The clerk be directed to schedule a hybrid special council meeting for the purpose of appointing a qualified individual to fill the vacancy in the office of Ward 4 in accordance with the procedures to appoint an individual to fill a vacancy known as the procedures. And D, the clerk be authorized to make any necessary adjustments to the procedures, appointment meetings procedures, as a result of the meeting being held as a fully electronic or hybrid in-person electronic meeting in accordance with Article 12 of the Procedure Bylaw 7412, provided that the clerk shall communicate any such changes to council and applicants prior to the meeting. So I think that about covers it. The only thing that I don't see here is a timeline. And should we not have a timeline like within 4 weeks, we have the special council meeting?
Good question.
It's just, I'm just an open question.
Yeah, okay, well, I think Mr. Hike is here to respond. Mr. Hike?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for that correction, Councillor. I apparently copy and pasted the wrong motion to the screen. The timelines actually are set down in the procedures. If you currently, the way the procedures are written is we'd actually have to advertise this for a period of 4 weeks and then schedule the meeting as soon as possible thereafter. So in some preliminary discussions, just considering today's already Wednesday, advertising this would likely occur starting Monday. We would do that for 4 weeks. Well, we still have to give a couple more days for qualified individuals to submit applications, and then we'll schedule the meeting thereafter. So you're talking about within about 6 weeks of Monday, we would schedule the special council meeting. That's what the procedures lay down.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure of that. And that's about it. I think I'm good with that. Hopefully I'll get a second and then we can discuss. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Silovitz. So I'm looking for a seconder for this motion. Councillor DePaula, do you want to speak to it? Unmute yourself, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor West. Yeah, happy to second this. I think Councillor Silovitz covered it off really well. This council has been in this position before. I think it's appropriate that an appointment occur rather than to have an election for the vacant seat. We're obligated to do one or the other, and this is the proper way forward with an appointment. And it looks like the clerk is ready to go, and I think council should authorize him to advertise for applicants. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to this that's on the floor right now?
Yes.
Councillor Munch and then Councillor Chan.
So I would like to keep listening as to why we want to have an appointment versus an election. I see the motion in front of us, but I haven't heard why. I've heard it's appropriate, but why? If we're going to have, I voted against a by-election, but I heard other members of council vote for it. And those people that voted for the election last time, I would like to hear why they would want to go with an appointment now. It's worrisome for me that we don't hold up any consistency as to an argument. And an argument by some was democracy rules. For those that said, oh, we have to have a by-election because a member of council, the public should have their say. If you're not saying that now, I'd like to know why. I'm not in favor of a by-election, but I'm not in favor of an appointment without argument. So I'm going to reserve my comments there to hear what Councillor Chan and Mayor West has to say. Previous acting Mayor DePaula did not vote in favor of a by-election, so his consistency is there. I'm wondering if we have a council of consistency of argument, or is it something else? And that's what I'm looking forward to hearing, because I think the public has a expectation that we're going to govern with some level of consistency and plausibility. So I'm looking forward for this round. I'm going to go for a second after I hear the others, so I can get them on the record as to, where they're at and if they're consistent or not, so that we can make sure that everybody knows where everybody stands. Thank you.
Okay, the next person on the speakers list I have is Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In fact, the mover actually spot what the clerk mentioned about maybe a cut and paste error. However, was it ever considered it could be appointed another member of council to carry on the duty as well, or is it unprecedented? Just curious, through you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Chan. Interesting question. Sorry, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. So I can say, so the procedures and the policy for appointing that council's approved say that, yes, another member of council could be appointed to fill a vacancy if that vacancy is the regional or local councillor or the office of the mayor. So a ward councillor could be appointed to fill that vacancy because they'd be qualified. Is it possible for council to waive this procedure and appoint another member of council to fill that vacancy? Certainly, but that would require either the mayor or a regional councillor to step down to the ward councillor, or another ward councillor to give up their current ward seat for the ward seat, in which case then we'd still be dealing with another vacancy.
Thank you. Yeah, just wondering what are the options. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm next on the list. I think the only, Councillor Chan, is a good question. The only thing I guess I would point out is that we would still have the same number of votes on council. So I think the benefit of getting another person on council means that we would be back up to an odd number, and I guess the frequency of possible tie votes would be lessened. There's a couple of points in this staff report that I think are important to note. It is very, very close to not having a by-election even being possible with the timeline. We're barely in under the wire, but it's getting very close to the deadline according to the staff report. The other thing is, I think there is a fundamental difference between appointing a mayor and appointing a ward councillor. I mean, that's not a slight on any of those positions, but I think that the most expeditious and efficient way to fill this remaining vacancy that we have from the situation, I think, is probably to do an appointment. I'm quite aware of the appointment process for a ward councillor, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to suggest that I would bet that there will be a lot of very excellent people that will put their name forward for this position. And, I look forward, excuse me, for council to be able to pick from that group and pick the best candidate for that position. So I think this is the best way to go. It is less expensive, but I think it's also the most efficient at this time. And I believe, weighing all things in consideration, that is the best way to go. So having said that, that completes the first round of speaking. I do have Councillor Silovitz on the second round, and Councillor Munch, you indicated that you want to speak after her. So go ahead, Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add that because Councillor Munch was asking some questions. I voted against a by-election, and I stand by that, and I'm doing so now again. I believe this definitely should occur. It's cost-wise and it's time-wise. We are literally weeks away from the municipal general election to start for candidates to put their names in. So we can't, if it's a by-election, it takes much longer to organize. And I think that this way is the best way, the most efficient way, as Mayor West said, for us to do this. But I think we also serve the public best this way. The public knows that this is the final year of a term, and the general municipal election is in October. So this position is to have someone in place to represent the Ward 4 residents who now no longer have representation as such. So I believe this is the best way to do it. And I agree with Mayor West. I think there are many, many qualified people out there who, some we know, some maybe we don't know, who would put their name in. And each one has an opportunity to present themselves to council, and then council votes. And yes, we get back into that difficult situation that if council is deadlocked at a 4-4, then it's over to the clerk to choose the person who will have that seat. I think last time this picking out of a hat took on a life of its own. And that was one of the reasons why we were almost pushed, I say that with all respect, into having a by-election, because nobody wanted that to occur. However, it is part of the Municipal Act, and I do believe that it's the right way to go. I would urge my fellow members of council that, we come to some consensus of one individual that we believe will serve the Ward 4 residents very well for a few months, and will also be able to fill a 9th seat, which is very important at the moment. And someone that we can all, there's always going to be disagreements, but someone that we all feel that person can do this for a few months. So I don't think there's anything else I want to say. I urge my fellow members of council that we find consensus with this so that we avoid any major problems. I think that it behooves us as the current council to do our best and come up with a very good, clean solution for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silvitz. Councillor Munch on a second round.
Yeah, so help me understand. So if we go through an appointment process and we deadlock 4-4 and we go forwards to the March, I'm not sure what's the date you want to bring this back?
I think if I'm not mistaken, it would be sometime in March, Councillor.
So that would lead us 2 weeks because March 31st is a deadline for an election. So if we don't get to an understanding, especially with this council, then we're effectively going to let the province decide or we have to let the clerk go out of a hat. So if we go to an appointment and we go 4-4 and we're stuck, then we go out of hat because there's no time to go to an election. And given how this council's acted so far under the new mayor, doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. So I'm going to say to you that I'm very concerned, more so now than I was before, that we don't have the resolve. I agree with the Councillor Silvitz where there should have been some pragmatism, but I've yet to experience it here on council myself. And judging by the emails and texts I've gotten today, they agree. A lot of people who are pragmatic agree, who aren't political. So I'm going to say to you that if we want to go to an appointment, that's fine. So a question I have is, we're going to give an unfair advantage. Should we go to an appointment? Should we not try to request the person does not run for the general election? Mayor West, you have a lot of experience on this. What's your position on that?
As far as I understand it, it would be up to the individual to make that decision. But every single one of us, as we go through this process, will likely have, I can only speak for myself, but I assume that others will feel differently as well, a specific set of criteria of the kind of the person that they're looking for, the set of skills, the set of background, the set of a myriad of different things. So if it's, if that's something that council is interested in pursuing or asking the candidates, they're certainly welcome to do so. I think if I'm not mistaken, that question was asked in the last time that we had this process. It was asked a number of times. So it is certainly one of many things that I would assume would be considered. And I suspect that each member of council will kind of have their own idea on weighting on what importance they put on any given individual's characteristics.
But what, again, you didn't answer the question. What's your position on should they run based on, you were in this situation before, you flip-flopped. What's your position today?
I don't think it's, I'm not going to tell you that at this present moment, Councillor Munch. And what we're doing right now and what's before us is the decision on how we're going to fill the vacancy. I think as we move forward, then, those questions are certainly going to have to be answered, and each individual councilor will have to make their own decision.
So we as a council aren't going to have a position? You don't have a preference? We don't have a preference?
No, and no one's asking council as a whole to have a position. I think individually, councilors can make the decision based on the criteria that they feel is important.
So how are we going to get to a consensus if everybody's going to act individually with their leadership?
Have you read the staff report? Because the procedure is right in the staff report, and
yes.
It outlines it fairly. It outlines it fairly well. It's a ballot system where you probably will go through a couple of iterations, and we'll finally get to the last couple of candidates if it goes that far. If on the first ballot somebody receives a majority of votes, if I understand it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clerk, then that person would be declared on the first ballot. It may or may not happen that way. We don't know.
But if we're going to get to a consensus on council, shouldn't we? The information I just said now is not in the staff report. So what I'm saying to you is, as we have a situation where someone's going to run for an appointment, that person may have a preferential opportunity to go into the general election in the fall. Shouldn't we have? Are we going to have this discussion about that? I'm not saying I like it or don't like it, but can we at least have a conversation about it?
Maybe I can take this.
I think there seems to be some confusion, Councillor Munch. the procedure that is outlined as a staff, or sorry, as a council policy is in the staff report. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clerk, but the council vacancy policy, which is attachment A in the in your package, outlines how the procedure works.
Okay. My question is, beyond the procedure, there's another question. And the other question is, if the appointment process goes into a general election, are we as this council, and there are individual councillors who would like to comment to say, going into an election, seeing we have 3 months, May 1st, we're going the second month from February, 3 months from now, people can start considering running for the general. So this appointment process is going to give that particular party some level of community opportunity that others won't have. And is this council recognizing that or not? And if the council does recognize that, do they have a thought about it that we can share today?
Mr. Clerk, maybe you can add some light to that.
If I might, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I understand what Councillor Munch is asking. This is actually assuming this passes, this will be the second time I've dealt with a council, third time I've dealt with a council appointment, including one that was actually much closer to a municipal election than this one even was. The appointment occurred in July of a municipal election year. And the question was put to me is that, can council say that whomever we appoint will not run in the municipal election? My response was, and it would still be this today, is council actually can't take that position because they cannot deny someone who is otherwise legislatively entitled to run for office to run for office.
Yes, again, just so you know, Mr. Clerk, there's one member of council that actually went through that process, who's on the council right now. So I'm pretty sure that member might be aware. And that's where, and others who are on council, there are at least 2 others who are present that were on council. And I think, at least I'm aware of what happened. I'm sure the other member of council may be aware as well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a dialogue to see where people are at, to see if that's a consideration as a discussion topic now. Because maybe that candidates coming forward would like to know where council would like to see it, and maybe they would like to put that in their application or not, or whatever. So I ask as a conversation, are we going to have a conversation about A, deadlocking, and B, do we want to give that particular candidate an opportunity in the fall, or should we at least say as a general courtesy, you are or are not? And that's a consideration as to how what we decide as a group, as per Councillor Silivitz's thought about going united. Be really good if we had the discussion as opposed to everybody just have their own mindset or their own preferences for whatever reason. I'm just trying to follow the Councillor Silivitz's concept, see if we can actually work together as a council on discussion on topics that are in front of us on an agenda. Nobody wants to weigh in? Nobody wants to talk about it? Nobody understands it?
Councillor Silvitz, you've already had a second round.
We can read procedure by law. I'll let her speak because it's an important topic.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on the second round? Okay, seeing none, I think we've exhausted our speakers list. So if there's no other comments, I'd like to take the vote. So all in favor of the motion in front of us is option 1 in the staff report.
Sure.
Recorded vote called by Councillor Silvitz.
Thank you. Voting on the motion of Councillor Silvitz, seconded by Regional Local Councillor DePaula. Councillor Silvitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Crowley is absent. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barros is absent. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, moving right along. The next item on the agenda then would be member motion from Regional and Local Councillor DePaulo declaring opposition to the discriminatory nature of the province of Quebec's Bill 21. Over to you, Councillor, Regional Local Councillor DePaulo.
Thank you, Mayor West. Okay, perhaps if the clerk could put the motion on the screen for the benefit of all members of council, and I can speak to it from there. Mr. Mayor, this came about back in December. Other municipalities were taking a position on the seemingly discriminatory nature of Bill 21, which was being considered at the time by the province of Quebec, and I agreed, and I wanted to get in front of our council at the earliest opportunity, which today I put out notice of my intention to move this motion nearly 2 months ago now. So the motion is somewhat self-explanatory if you do go through and read the whereas, but the bottom line is that I'm hoping that councillors will support me in taking the position that the city of Richmond Hill opposes Bill 21 as discriminatory in nature, as it undermines the fundamental freedoms of Canadians enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So the resolution part of my motion is very simple and very straightforward, not to dilute or obfuscate the point of what we would be saying here as a council. We're saying that this bill, and it's citing the one example of a grade 3 teacher in an elementary school that was removed from her classroom for wearing a hijab. To me, that is offensive in every way. It goes against our multicultural policy of acceptance, but fundamentally, and there are a lot of other positions we could take, but fundamentally, I believe that it's contrary to the rights and freedoms guaranteed by our charter. So the fact that it's a fundamental violation of our freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, and opinion and expression, that it was necessary for us to take a position. So that's the resolution I put before council. I believe Councillor Silvitz may wish to second if you want to go to her next. And I really hope that council can support this unanimously to take a stand. Sometimes you have to take a stand, and we're certainly not alone. There's a lot of others that have done so as well. So thank you for the time to introduce this, Mayor West, and I'm hopeful for council support of the motion.
Thank you, Regional Local Councillor DePaul. I just out of interest, before we go to Councillor Silvitz, do you know how many other municipalities there are that have signed? I know there's a lot in December. Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I stopped counting in mid-December when 6 or 7 of the big municipalities have done this. So I imagine many have followed since.
All right, no, thank you. Fair enough. Councillor Silvitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Regional Local Councillor DePaul for bringing this forward. We've had a discussion about this, and I've had discussions with a number of our Muslim brothers and sisters who are also Richmond Hill residents, and they are absolutely in support of us doing this. I find what happened to Fatima Anvari what is horrific, and it should never be allowed to happen again, because if you start, this is a very slippery slope. What are they going to do with a Jewish man who's wearing a kippah, or a Jewish woman who's wearing a shaitel, which is a wig? What are they going to do with a Sikh man who's wearing a turban, a Muslim man who's wearing a cap? It just goes on and on. You can't do that. We are all Canadian, and we are all protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I absolutely agree that we need to send this in to call on the Parliament of Canada, both government and opposition, to challenge Bill 21 at the Supreme Court. We live in one of the most vibrant multicultural cities in Canada. And I think it behooves us as these members of council for this municipality to stand up for all of our people, every single one. This action that Quebec has taken is racist and bigoted, and it cannot be allowed to stand. So I firmly put my second behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silvitz. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to this motion that we have in front of us? Councillor Chan. Councillor Munch, is that a card? Okay. Councillor Chan first and then Councillor Munch.
Thank you. I'm in support of this motion for the good reasons that not only listed in the motion, but also elaborated, articulated very well by the mover, and Councillor Silvitz just spoke before me. And I'm also focused on the last where statement, where City of Richmond is a vibrant, multicultural city and strongly supports and embraces diversity, inclusivity, and its cultural heritage. And being part of Canada, we are making reference to under our Charter Rights of Freedom, as stated in here, that's guaranteed right, which I'm not going to repeat here, freedom of conscience, of religion, and so on. And I'm in full support of this. And also that, don't forget, just I believe last November, our municipalities actually signed on to this coalition of inclusive municipalities. So both from a legal angle, where this Charter of Rights and Freedom is being cited, but from a moral grounds that we have every single reason to support this. To do otherwise is just unfair, unjust, and not really living up to what we have signed up for with this coalition of inclusive municipalities. Now, the last thing, perhaps, through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps the mover. Did I hear right? I believe the large urban mayors of Ontario have also passed similar motion. Am I correct? Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mover.
Okay. Mayor West?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry, I don't recall the wording and the verbiage of it, but there was a statement made coming out of the Ontario Big City Mayor's Caucus meeting.
Thank you. Yeah,
no.
Thank you very much. And the reason I brought it up is because I want also to thank our former acting mayor. I believe he participated in that large city mayor of Ontario, where there has been talk about. So I'm in full support, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the mover and seconder.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Munch.
Good day. So yes, but I just want everyone who isn't familiar with the history of Canada, you might want to look up the Quebec Act, which is what the foundation of Canada is, and that formed the Dominion, and that gave Quebec the concept of what Canada is today of law, order, peace, and good government because of that Quebec Act that stopped Canada from becoming an American state prior to the 1812 revolution. And I'm going to try to just give a little notion, because in 1982, when this Charter of Rights and Freedoms was signed, Quebec did not sign on. The reason they did not sign on is because it was perceived by Quebec that Canada did not respect the culture of Quebec. And that's why there's been two formal constitutional attempts, both Charlottetown and Meech Lake, to bring Quebec into the Constitution. Quebec is not part of the Canada Act, but they are part of the Dominion of Canada. And Canada was formed because of the Quebec Act, which said when Upper Canada wanted to protect itself from becoming an American state in the early 1800s, Canada was formed in 1867, was because Upper Canada, Toronto, went down to Lower Canada, New France or Montreal, and said, hey, you guys can own your own language, culture, and laws, and we're going to trade guns and furs. And that was the basics of how Canada was formed. So we need to be very careful in English Canada when we start talking to Quebec about culture, because it's a very sensitive topic. With René Lévesque said there will be dire consequences And I think we have to be very, very careful where we're going. Obviously, as a result of Canada being protection of the people, all people, and the extension of that in the 1982 Canada Act does not supersede the foundations of our principles of the Quebec Act. I think we as a municipality should watch ourselves, because we don't want to have a situation where all the best intentions actually get characterized from a portion of Canada that is seeing it as not respecting its culture. So obviously I'm in total favor of everybody being equal and showing respect under Canadian law. I have not experienced that in some members of our governance. When you look at our founding and when we start doing things, how our founding formula is formed in a short 154-year history. History is a way of repeating itself. And when you look at the conflicts and some of the things that people are doing for short-term gain against the structure, it's very, very problematic when you look at many, many countries in the world that have conflict, like Ukraine, for example, right now. So I don't want to go into a conflict. Canada is the only country on the planet in the industrialized world that evolved through evolution and can leave on a stroke of a pen without having a revolution. And here, that's why we have a rule of law, where we have a differential in powers, and we let the courts decide that, making sure that we're following it. So anyway, I'm in favor of equality. I'm in favor of respecting our history and our forefathers. I believe in following everything that we believe in terms from the Quebec Act going forward. And thank God we repealed Benedict Arnold, otherwise we would be in America right now, which is why the early 1800s, well before Canada was formed, they did not come north of the 49th parallel, because of that understanding of language, culture, and laws, which is why we are a bilingual country today. So for those that don't know, just look up the Quebec Act and the Dominion of Canada. It's a really interesting study. So I'm in favor of the motion on principle, but I'm cautious of the aggressiveness, because I do not want to have a situation where a small little motion could raise challenges in a part of the country where language, culture, and laws are taken very, very seriously. The differences between Ontario and Quebec are pretty interesting. And I think Councillor Silvitz actually probably shows some feeling of this, because she has a Quebec or French background. But give you a concept, when somebody in Quebec City challenges somebody in Montreal, or vice versa, the Quebecers as a whole come together. When somebody challenges Windsor or Sudbury or Kingston, many of us just fluff it off. So Quebec is a very much of a united French culture, and they take that language and culture very seriously, and they protect it. And that's why they did not form or become part of the Canada Constitution of the Canada Act. So when we mention the Charter of Rights and Freedoms under I think it's March 25th, 1982, when the Canada Act was formed, Quebec was not part of that. And they said, and it was changed at 11 o'clock the night before they were about to sign. So it's a real sore spot for Quebec, and for us to throw it back in their face, some may see that, if they take it seriously, as an attack of their culture. So I'm in favor of the motion, but I think the spirit of the motion and the language of it, has to be cautious, and I'm hoping it doesn't take things out of context, where all we're looking to do is have fairness and equality and have a justice within our society.
You're right. Your time's up. Thank you, Councillor Munch.
Yep,
So it's a lot's been said. I won't add a lot to that. I think this is a good motion to show our support. People have spoken to me about this as well, that are in situations where discrimination is something that they unfortunately may see on a fairly regular basis, and I think we need to be standing up to this. So thank you, Councillor DiPaolo, for bringing this forward. Thank you, Councillor Silvitz, for seconding it, and I think we've exhausted the speakers list. So unless there's a desire for a second round, I'd call the vote. All those in favor of the recorded vote from Councillor Silvitz. Sorry. Councillor Silvitz, sorry. What's your name again?
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Clerk. What's my name, actually? I'm not even really sure about that.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, voting on the motion moved by Regional Local Councillor DiPaolo, seconded by Councillor Silvitz. Councillor Silvitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli is absent. Councillor Barros is absent. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes, and thank you, Council.
Thank you. That motion does carry unanimously.
Okay, we're getting close to the finish line. That's the good news, Council. Thank you for your patience. It's very much appreciated. We have one more member motion from Councillor Munch about outdoor ice recreation expansion. So I'll pass the floor over to you, Councillor Munch, if you'd like to introduce your motion at this time.
Yeah, so I'm hoping people have read the motion. Basically, there's been a huge request, at least in my ward and others, who have said, how come we don't have more outdoor skating rinks? It also became what really raised the specter for me was then there was a debate about people saying, we're just going to go on our ponds. And that's a really unsafe condition. And then there were members of the public who were out there and said, oh, we'll do it anyway, putting people in harm's way. So we, by not having enough skating rinks beyond, some of us are more favorable to outdoor or not, I thought it'd be worthwhile to have a discussion about, as we're going through a parks plan and everything else, to say, hey, look, guys, why don't we look about more outdoor rinks? The motion was fair, as I try to be every time I'm in council, to say not everybody's going to get it, not just about Ward 2, saying, yeah, just my ward's going to get ice rinks, because we got two really great places to be piece of cake to do. We actually said, let's do it in all wards. And let's try to engage the public. Say, hey, public, you can do it with us, not governments all by itself, because we're going to have issues with, supervision and safety. We want to make sure the public will want to do it. So we're hoping that when staff come back, they'll come back with some engagement practices where if the members of the public want to take an active interest, we'll work with them. And if they want more of it, maybe there can be more in other wards down the road, and we can start creating a culture of skating and hockey and playing and fun for kids and adults alike. And also, I'd like to see if people want to do it in their private rinks. There's at least 2 people in my area that have got a very large plot of land. And they said, I'm willing to put boards up and do that. Would the city be interested in having people, if I do this ice rink, would they want to come in and join that? And I said, absolutely. Well, then what happens with liability? Well, that's why I put in the motion, and we should see if we would provide some form of insurance or form of insurance, or maybe the group insurance, to help protect us and others for liability, but also get people to have their own rinks so that they don't have to say they get caught up in a legal matter that they can't have it. So should look every way possible to include outdoor recreation in or during or after a COVID period. We should try to embrace the things, especially during the Olympics right now. I think a lot of people would like to see more winter activities. And I think we have a shortage of that. And it has going to be part of the budget process, and we have to make it happen. So I think it's too late to do in 2022 or 2021, 2022, but certainly for the 2022 or 2023, I think a lot of people I think there's a sector of our community who would probably really enjoy it today. And I think the new Canadians, seeing there's 20,000 new people coming to the GTA every month, more than the city of Richmond Hill's population are coming to our area every year. So there's going to be a big people who have no idea about ice skating or hockey or how it works. It's a great opportunity. I think it's a responsibility of us and our forefathers to make sure that we promote all that's Canadian. Seeing, although field hockey is the national sport, hockey and ice skating is up there. So that's why this motion's there. I think there's a portion of the public, some of my residents who have asked to do it. I want safety for the holding ponds. And I think given the people that aren't used to ice hockey or skating, we have to give them the opportunity to embrace all that's Canadian. And I'd like to do it throughout Richmond Hill to have everybody have the opportunity, regardless of what side of the geography, assuming Richmond Hill exists, years to come. So there you go.
I certainly hope we will, but who knows what the future holds. So seconder, Councillor Silvich, I'm looking for a seconder. Are you willing to second it? Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, just briefly. Councillor Munch got it all in there, and his motion is good. And I look forward to getting a staff report. And I like the fact that he's also asking for expansion of pathways and trails for outdoor ice skating, because I've certainly had a lot of people, especially this year, ask me why they can't go on the trails. They're either not, they haven't been cleaned, or they just can't go on the trails. So So maybe this is just, maybe this is a different way for us to start looking at things. Having gone through 2 years of a pandemic, I think that, I believe that if we can assist in whichever way possible, as long as our liabilities are covered, that's very important. Then to have outdoor rinks and greater accessibility of our trails, where you could perhaps have some cross-country skiing if they're groomed. I look forward to hearing that in a staff report to come forward. And yes, it would also have to be part of a budget discussion, agreed, 100%. There's a lot of things for us to make sure we get right here. And it'll take a while, but let's hope by the time, winter 22-23 comes around, there'll be a decision, and we will actually have this. I know in Montreal, there are outside ice rinks everywhere, and they are maintained by the city, and they are fantastic. Anybody can go and skate in them. So I know we still have, COVID protocols, and we may still have some COVID protocols at the end of the this year, but all in all, this is a good motion, and I'd like to see where we go with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silowitz. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this? Councillor Chan.
Well, first of all, thank you, Councillor Munch, for the motion. Yes, I think that certainly that COVID or not, but more than ever with COVID, we need more opportunity for outdoor, really good fun exercise, not to mention about, this great Canadian winter tradition, no doubt about it. And I did see the city manager here, which is a couple of times, and that liability issue had been raised. So actually, perhaps it's a good time that through you, Mr. Chair, to the city staff in terms of not just a liability, but general in terms of helping to implement this motion when adopted, or if and when adopted. What are the issues or challenges or the support the city staff might be looking for? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Munch and I had a great conversation about this motion the other day, and staff certainly recognize the demand in our community and how we want to move forward with our outdoor skating. And we've been actually having some staff meetings and discussion on this already. When I spoke with Councillor Munch, my only concern here is the deadline of July 1st, because you're going to see the key directions report from the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan process come in front of council on February the 23rd. And within that key directions report, there are recommendations specific to outdoor skating in there. So I just wanted to make sure that we are covering all our bases and dovetailing council's motion with the recommendations of that key directions report. So that's my only concern. I think in that key directions report, it's kind of making recommendations around looking at outdoor skating, from a bigger vision, whether that be additional refrigerated surfaces like you have at the trail at the Richmond Green, or whether that's more natural ice, as perhaps Councillor Munch was alluding to, in setting up those kits in areas and pockets throughout the city. Lots of municipalities do those on their ball diamonds, for example. And some communities, not all, do use some volunteers to help, maintain and supervise. So we're certainly prepared to come forward with a report. I just wanted to, and Councillor Munch respected the deadline of July 1st. I want to make sure they come together in unison with the recommendations of the Parks Plan.
Okay, Councillor Chan, are you?
Yes, I think as I mentioned also, as there are individuals or groups that may be interested in partnering, and I'm just thinking about that. Doesn't have to be added now. Perhaps in working it through, we look for opportunity for partnership with community-based groups. Perhaps that's one way of looking at it, having more engagement. Because I do remember just past weekend, I passed by Mill Pond, and there's lots of people in there enjoying the outdoor fun, just skating on Mill Pond. So maybe looking at more community-based organizations, groups for partnership opportunities might help. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. Councillor Liu, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this motion wholeheartedly, and I would like to thank Councillor Munch for this motion. It's a wonderful motion. He always advocates for improving the quality of life of the residents, and this is absolutely going to improve the quality of life. So thank you very much. Yeah, so let's do it, and let's be creative. And this is a great motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Liu. Regional Local Councillor DePaulo.
Yeah, just quickly, I do support the motion. I think this is great. It's actually long overdue that we take a better look at this. I think we're underserviced for outdoor rinks, but I wondered if the report could include a comment as to the cost of a civic square with an ice rink at Young and Major Mac. I think that would just be a great opportunity if if cost could be looked at. Where a true city-owned and run facility where we're offering rentals and a place we have that civic precinct, and deciding not to put an administrative building. I think we have some outdoor space that could be programmed there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DePaulo. I have a number of comments about this as well, and I'll start off by saying that I'm really pleased to see this, and thank you, Councillor Munch, for bringing it forward. You and I spoke about this the other day. This is a very positive plan. It's a great idea, and I agree it's long overdue. I just want to say a couple of things, and none of these are negative, and if anything, they're just to add a bit more to the discussion. So I do think that on top of this motion, that we really are short of refrigerated ice surfaces like the skate trail, but not a trail. A rectangular or some other shape that that isn't the same skating experience as the trail. I'm not really going to go too far down this whole rabbit hole right now, because I know that in the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan, I am quite confident that there will be mention of that, so we can capture that aspect of it in that plan. Winters are very unpredictable. A month or so ago, I figured we weren't going to have a winter, and now all of a sudden we're deep into it. So the rinks that Councillor Munch is referencing in this motion are excellent. Some years are going to be fantastic. Some years they're going to be, puddles. But I think, on average, we need to do it. It's something that people are asking for, and I think it's worthwhile doing. But I think if we had refrigerated rinks, it would supplement that on years that are a bit warmer. I do like the idea, actually, of having some community involvement, and I appreciate Councillor Munch for doing that. We actually in Ward 4 did a couple of years ago start a little pilot project where we had the community engaged, and it was one of those years it was really warm, so I don't think they got very many skating days on the actual rink. But through that process with staff, I did realize some of the challenges in creating outdoor rinks. You need to have water that's winterized. You need a surface that's flat. There's one location in particular that I think would be fantastic. And staff pointed out to me the other day that, yeah, it's great, except, it's sloping. So, and I remember this in my long ago days when I was making backyard rinks with my brother. You got to find a place in the backyard that's level, or you have a whole lot of ice at one end and a whole little ice at the other end. So that's obviously important. And I know that there are going to be challenges in picking locations. But anyway, I think budget implications were brought up. I mean, there will be a budget implication, but I truly believe that this is exactly the kind of thing that that our residents want. And if there may be a cost to it, and I have no doubt that we'll obviously be as efficient as we possibly can. but I think this is something that they would really enjoy, and they would, especially during COVID, they'll really use. The mill pond is such an in-demand facility right now, and I think we need to be replicating that in as many places in the community as we possibly can. Get out, enjoy the winter. Hopefully next year we won't have the COVID restrictions that we've had in the past couple of years, but nevertheless, hopefully people will really get a taste of being able to be outside and experience a Canadian winter. So, I'm very much in favor of this. I do appreciate the comment that, Councillor Munch and our City Manager Jocelyn will try to kind of dovetail the coincidence of this motion and the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan, so that we can, realize some efficiencies in that as well. So I think we're good to go, and I look forward to the staff report coming back, and we can all make sure that we get skates sometime between now and next winter. So thanks very much. Seeing no other comments, I think at this time, Councillor Silvis recorded vote on the motion on Councillor Munch's member motion. So over to you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. The mayor voting on the motion of Councillor Munch, seconded by Councillor Silvitz. Councillor Silvitz. Sorry, you're muted, Councillor.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional and Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barrows is absent. Regional and Local Councillor Pirelli is absent. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously.
Fantastic, Council. All right. I think we're at the point where we're deliberating on the emergency and time-sensitive matter. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
That's correct.
Okay. So given that this is a motion that I introduced, I would at this time like to turn the chair over to Regional Local Councillor Deputy Mayor DePaulo.
Okay, happy to take the chair. Go ahead, Mayor West.
Okay, thank you. So as we discussed in the at the beginning of the meeting, which was quite some time ago, what I believe we need right now at this time is a council position on the transit-oriented community file. This is a very, very, very important project in Richmond Hill, and I want to be very clear that I believe that council in the past has certainly been very much in favor of the subway. That is crucial. It's crucial not just to us, but it's crucial to the entire transportation network in Southern York region. So that's very important. Regional Council the other day, we finalized another step in finalizing the route of that subway. And, we are very close now to going into procurement for the work that needs to be done and will be done for quite a number of years. So we are fully in support, I believe, of the transit-oriented community concept that we've all been talking about and deliberating on and working on for a number of years now with the downtown center secondary plan. But in those deliberations, and as I said earlier this morning, staff has been working very, very hard on our behalf for quite some time now on the downtown secondary plan, but also on the transit-oriented community plan, working to negotiate with the various parties, including Infrastructure Ontario, to make this the very best plan that it can be. At the present moment, though, the plan, generally, there's a number of issues that are not resolved and aligned with the downtown secondary plan the draft downtown secondary plan that we have in place. And there's quite a significant variance in, for example, the population density, the jobs ratio in the draft secondary plan versus the TOC plan. The height and so on of the buildings that are proposed in the TOC plan are considerably different than the draft secondary plan as well. And on top of this, the province, the deadline has been very short for a number of reasons, which I understand. But the province is looking for zoning certainty for the high-tech station TOC proposal by March 1st. The time for the deadline for comments for all municipalities, including Richmond Hill, is coming up very fast. And so time really is of the essence. There will probably be a mechanism like a ministerial zoning order that will be given to us. And I think as a council, we need very much to be prepared for that and to do all that we can to make sure that we're building in partnership with the province and with Metrolinx the very, very best plan that we can. So Mr. Clerk, if you could put my motion up on the screen. I did send this, as you all know, to all members of council yesterday morning. So you have had time to take a look at it. And I do realize that the time is very short. And unfortunately, it was very difficult given our timeline and the by-election and so on to get this to council in advance of this meeting. Or much more in advance of this meeting. I certainly was not able to achieve the deadline of having it on the agenda, which I get it. It would have been ideal to do that. But, this to me was the next best possibility. And so therefore, that's what I have proposed. So those would be my comments. And I'm more than happy to hear any comments or suggestions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Chan. I assume you want a second, and you go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and for up what the mayor was saying. Certainly that many of us who have been working for so long to see the young subway extension come to Richmond Hill is certainly something we support. And the province that have this particular transit-oriented community as a concept is certainly something that I, for one, support, and the mayor also mentioned support the concept, because that would be the opportunity to really transform the whole area into a walkable, complete community. Now, the concept is something we support. However, when we see what being released by Infrastructure Ontario, the mayor already touching on the job ratio, the job number, for example, has been down 34% from what Richmond Hill has been in drafting for our Richmond Hill Center secondary plan. And the population is 2 times more. And the other aspect, as I strongly believe, is about the in terms of opportunity to consult with, meaning that Infrastructure Ontario to consult with both the York region, both the municipality and members of the public to make it better. We all really have the common objective of making this area, including, I would say, on the south side, the bridge transit-oriented community into a very vibrant and really prosperous mixed-use area. No doubt about it. I think we are on the same page. From my end, I'm supporting the motion and second it. Is that desire. We want to have a collaborative approach. So I take it, consultation is always good. And I do understand the time of the province. They want to move on as quickly as possible. I understand it. Already comment have been made. There could be requests for interest or proposal coming up very soon. That's sort of understandable. But as a local government, elected, all of us, elected by our community or residents, I think that we have to take a position to indicate, A, we are affirming our strong support of the concept for a walkable 15-minute community, which is a concept of this TOC, and have the subway to be here so that it would be the place to anchor this multi-use commercial and residential. One of the things I have to be saying, my particular concern with also the lowering job number is that it would mean both high tech and the bridge would only be the kind of the transit, or not the kind of transit hub I personally like to see, which meaning would be directing traffic both north-south on Yonge Subway, but not just sort of one way, having people have to leave the city to go somewhere else for jobs. The other aspect, which is not touched on in here, but also about the other natural heritage, such as parks, open space, and in particularly, for those of you who might be familiar with the area, there's also a heritage woodlot right at the northeast corner of Yonge and Highway 7. That's something maybe very, very site-specific, so you don't need to be mentioned in here in the motion, but I think the general direction is a seeking province to work together. We are here to work with you together. So give us an opportunity by having a 90-day extension. So with York Region, with City of Richmond Hill, City of Markham, and our professional planners, as well as opportunity for community, so that we can make it a plan, a really committee we're all proud of, and put, just like we passed early on the key directions, to have Richmond Hill to a dynamic, vibrant city with the really a world-class place that we can all be proud of in the Richmond Hill Center. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I look forward to hearing my colleagues' comments. I hope we can pass this motion unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. Go ahead, Councillor Silowitz.
Oh, thank you, Councillor DiPaolo. Thank you to Councillor West and Chan, Councillors West and Chan, Mayor West and Councillor Chan for bringing this forward. I fully support it. We are a little bit behind the 8 ball here because we were involved with the by-election and we didn't have any meetings of council through the time that Markham and other municipalities were commenting. But I think what we really need to take note of is the 55 recommendations that came out a few days ago. And I have to tell you that they hit me like a brick. And I believe they hit a lot of people like a ton of bricks as well. I was horrified to see what that task force or whatever it was called, sorry, I don't know the name right now, that they came out with these 55 recommendations, which basically imagine if you took public health care and you gutted it, and then you say it doesn't work, so we've got to give it over to the private sector. That's exactly what is happening here. And I do believe that there is a push here for the provincial government to move this along as quickly as possible, because the writ will be dropped very shortly for our summer provincial election, and then nothing more can be done. So in my opinion, what we need is better public controls, like inclusionary zoning, vacancy tax, limit speculative housing flipping, rather than losing all the controls to people whose sole purpose might be to profit from housing. Further on the housing matter, if they want to lift all public controls and eliminate development charges and public and parkland dedication, then they should also agree to price controls so that the ultimate occupants of these housing units get the cost reduction and they are not saddled with what would become service to another's profits. We must protect Richmond Hill. We must protect the York region. We must protect the GTHA and Ontario. To me, this falls under the cynical guise of reducing the price of housing. Reducing public costs like parkland does not reduce the price of housing. The price is set by what the market will bear. And I think we all know that very well by now. What something like this will do, it could subsidize developers' profits. And we're not against development. We're not against development of the Richmond Hill Centre, of the Langstaff Gateway. We know it's coming. But it's when it becomes outrageous that we must speak up. So if the province wants the existing residents and taxpayers to bear the costs of parkland and infrastructure, etc., then I believe the province should be showing us an audited pro forma that would confirm that the cost matches the price. And we can only get that through continued consultation with the province. Because as Mayor West said, we support the construction of the Young North subway line. I mean, that goes without saying. But there's something has just ticked wrong here. And I don't know if it's because of how close we are to a provincial election. It's possible. I urge all members of council to read the article in the Toronto Star this morning. I just wrote a few notes here. It's entitled Housing Report Met with Mixed Reviews. It's a brilliant article. And Toronto Councillor Mike Colley is quoted as saying that excuse me 1 second. Yes, he urges everybody to know what they're doing. And he says that this is the provincial government's no more planning report, and that it represents a humongous developer buffet. That's a visual. And no requirements for affordability whatsoever. I agree with him. I think he's 100% correct. Please read that article. It is eye-opening. It has comments from many, many people who are leaders on councils across the GTHA. But just in closing, I want to say that, in my opinion, what is being planned here is an assault on planning and an assault on the public and the greater public good.
Thanks, Councillor.
The public must comment on this matter, and this council, through staff's comments submitted to the province, must be permitted to occur through the mechanism of this motion. And I have no doubt that this will occur. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else want to speak on this? Councillor Munch, go ahead.
Good day. So I appreciate the Toronto Star article. I really believe that this is an example why this should not be on. I'm going to move a deferral of this till the next council meeting. The reason for that is that if you look at other municipalities like Barrie, Oakville, you look at the communication that's taking place about this report, they've moved motions in Barrie to say, we want to work. I like to describe this to many people. There's two kinds of children. Son, get in the car. Okay, Dad. Son, get in the car. I don't want to go. Mommy says I don't want to go. I don't have to go. I'm the first type. I want to work collaboratively with others. Each of those bus rapid transit stops are over $600,000. Next 10 years of future growth is paying for that subway. $500 million up Yonge Street in Richmond Hill alone. $500 million of Richmond Hill's taxpayer dollars went to that Viva bus station. $5.8 billion in today's term, which is going to be about $9 billion at the end. Richmond Hill has a $250 million cash cost of Highway 7 in Yonge. This housing affordability panel is a wake-up call to us that we have failed at the municipal level. And I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody who I hope are listening to this, I really love what the province did with the Oak Ridges Moraine, and I love the fact what we did with the Greenbelt. I'm sad that our policies are looking to destroy it, because part of that exchange for getting the Greenbelt and the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan was the growth plan by the Liberal government under Dalton McGuinty, and then Kathleen Wynne in 2016, and the More Homes and More Choice of 2019. And we, as a municipality, have not been able to achieve our targets for growth. And they've given us the power to do that. So this report that's in front of us, or in front of the province right now, is saying municipalities can't do the job, Mr. Province. So don't give them the power. Take the power away. They've been increasing the costs of construction. They've been delaying it. They use the term NIMBY and YIMBY in there, and they talk about banana. Hopefully you guys know what banana means. Build absolutely nothing around no one anywhere. And we have people today in our council who have said we're overdevelopment. So let's go through the math here. In 1971, when we were given the powers in Richmond Hill, there were 33,000 people in Richmond Hill. There were no sewers en masse. There were no roads paved en masse. In 2016, when they did the census, there was 195,000 in Richmond Hill, a 600% increase in 45 years. We are now asked to do 45% in 30 or 60% in the same amortization. We grew by 600%, and now we're growing by 60%. And people here are saying too much too fast. And this is an example of the province saying, 20 years ago, we provided more homes, more choice, where people had the opportunity to live where they wanted to go. They had choices of where they wanted to be and the type of house. Municipalities in Southern Ontario have not met the criteria for the people of this province. And as a result, we are the worst performing housing and job creating in the world. And Richmond Hill is number 2 in Ontario. It doesn't get worse unless you want to be Oakville. And I'm going to suggest to you that to fight the province when they're the ones that are doing this, the fact that some of you have not read the report, the fact that this is in front of us, I'm not looking for commentary by the media. We should do our due diligence as policymakers, and we should have the information in front of us. We have until March 1st. March 1st is the deadline. The reason there's a deadline and things get done. We need to do our due diligence, and we need to do this because, ladies and gentlemen, what they've said is, by our choice, we're going to get 4-story buildings in our neighborhoods. Your neighbor is going to be a 4-story building in a single family home. And I'm going to assure you that many, many people in our community are going to say, what? We don't want 4-story buildings. We had a problem with 2 units next to us. I don't want a 4-story building right next to us. Oh, do you know why that was? Because Richmond Hill Council couldn't make its decision. 75% of Richmond Hill was developed by the OMB and LPAT. 75% because we said, we don't want to make decisions. We're going to let these other people make the decisions for us. This council meeting has only done a bit. So I'm going to go to a second round into this, but I'm going to move a deferral so we can read and engage in good faith. Because if we want to be heard seriously, we better be serious in what we're doing here, because the province is saying they're about to take the powers away from us. And are we ready to subsidize and go further?
Time's up, Councillor, but you can definitely speak again on a second round if you choose. Okay, so I think everyone's spoken the first round that wanted to. Okay, so I definitely want to speak to this, and I think we're confusing 2 different things: the housing affordability report and this motion, which talks of it's a response to the transit-oriented community that's proposed in Richmond Hill. So, Mayor West, I wholeheartedly support your motion, and Councillor Chan for all the reasons you've indicated. I just think it's it's very diplomatic, and it's very it concedes a lot to want to partner and work with the province, when I think our residents just need to be told that we are disgusted. We're outraged. This is I can only speak for myself, but it's simply outrageous that we just went through a 1.5-year official plan update process with the collaboration and input from our residents, and we did not by any means undervalue that transit investment and the intersection of the public transit modes at Yonge and Highway 7, and we had our official plan had the most aggressive new urban center in all of Canada. That was our plan, and now the province has proposed to double the number of people there. to take away the jobs that we were planning for to have there. So, this council has done its planning. We have done our homework, and I am so discouraged on so many levels. I don't know what approach to take. I will support you, Mayor West, in your request of the province for some more time to discuss this. We need to discuss how are they going to allocate schools? How are we going to receive the development charges that we need to service 40,000 new residents? How are the community centers, the increased demands in our libraries and every other service that this city provides? How do they anticipate we're going to fund the additional cost that's going to go along with the 40,000 residents? Because our plan took all that into account. Our plan had a modern version of where schools could be, and we were cooperating with Markham on the south side. So it's not only this transit-oriented communities being imposed on us, but south of Highway 7, they've done the same thing and doubled the population there. Now, this is the very northwesternmost corner of Markham, the northeasternmost corner of Vaughan. It's the city of Richmond Hill that's going to deal with the impact not only of the TOC north of Highway 7, but south of Highway 7. All of those new residents are going to be an additional demand on our road networks, our services, and our infrastructure, our stormwater management. The fact that they've bypassed all the normal processes for consideration and consultation, that the TRCA doesn't even weigh in this process. So I understand why the two things are getting conflated, because Councillor Silovich, you are correct. This report that's out there to address housing affordability is absolutely ludicrous. It waters down and obliterates all of those necessary municipal functions. It's an assault on the municipal process, and it's alarming and very concerning. So these two things happening at the same time really are going to impact Richmond Hill. And I'll tell you, our residents were already leery of the growth that was proposed in our official plan. They were concerned that it's too much too fast, and we're concerned that we were required and obligated to absorb that much growth. But we had a plan and we had a vision, centers and corridors, where the growth was going to be. And now what is the province telling us? Are they going to guarantee that we're not going to get high-rise applications in our historic downtown because of this? Are we going to protect our greenbelt and our moraine because of this? That's a different story. If they're talking about additional protection for the rest of Richmond Hill, that's a different story, but I don't see any of that. So I'm flabbergasted that we're in this position. We haven't had an opportunity. We haven't met in 2 months. Thank you, Mayor West, for bringing this forward. Thank you for taking this position. I hope our talks are fruitful, and I hope we can get some answers for our residents. But it's just appalling, and I for one want our residents to know that this is not Richmond Hill Council's way of planning. Yes, and I'm the chair, of course, so the next speaker will be Mayor West on the second round as mover.
Actually, I would be happy just to wrap up at the end. Councillor DiPaolo, I'm sorry, if you don't mind. I think Councillor Munch has got his part up.
So you're going to forgo your second round opportunity, and but I'll come back to you for wrap up. Go ahead, Councillor Munch. Councillor Munch, you're up.
Sorry, must have. February 1st, 2022. Oakville News. Task Force recommendations would gut Oakville's official plan. January 18th. Barrie. Housing Task Force recommendations applied by advocate to help grow their transit corridors in Barrie. Our policy staff have not read or been involved in any of this yet. We have motions from Barrie, from Oakville. This motion is good. We want to have a discussion. Friday, we've learned today that there's a discussion with IO. We know that there's a task force. We want more time, but the question's going to be, what do you want more time for? We are not giving residents the opportunity today to come and talk to us for no reason. If we move this motion today, or we move it 3 weeks from today, makes no difference because March 1st is the deadline. This is not needed, and we're short-sighting our residents who want to chime in. There's been a Toronto a CBC article, which I spoke to the CBC 2 weeks ago now. And we need to talk about this because, ladies and gentlemen, the province has a vision. They ask us to meet that vision. They say we can meet that vision the way that we want our community to be met with the province's vision. The province doesn't say, municipality, tell us your vision and we'll figure it out at the province level. We have 20,000 and 21,000 people. The federal government is bringing people and they're coming to our area. The size of population of Richmond Hill every year is coming to this area in the GTA. 20,000 this year, a month, 21,000 next year, 22,000 the year after that. Where are they going to live and where are they going to have the area? And the concern here is that we're not managing enough homes and jobs. 50 jobs and homes per hectare were the target in 2006, 16 years ago by the province. We're at 24, ladies and gentlemen. So now the province is saying we can't do it at the local level, so we'll do it for you. I don't like it at all. I've been saying it. We need to manage our affairs and stop doing whatever. That's why we need a deferral. So I'm going to move a deferral motion. Not deferral motion is till next council meeting. That'll give us more opportunity to hear what IO has to say to the mayor, to know that we want to have a voice as to how we're going to design our community to meet the needs of the province in this massive investment that they're putting into our community. London, Kingston, Sudbury, the bondholders in New York are all subsidizing Richmond Hill to bring this forward for a reason. I don't like massive towers going to Highway 7 Yonge, and most of this council has been driving development to Highway 7 Yonge, so this would happen to Crossroads at someday. I'm against it entirely. I'm for a complete community, protecting our green space, driving a vibrant Richmond Hill where people can live, work, and play, and we don't have that today. Residents should have an opportunity to speak. Residents should have an opportunity to be part of this. We should work collaboratively instead of saying, let's move a motion for 90 more days to delay, when we all know there's a provincial election June 2nd and they want to move forwards. So we're saying, no, wait till after the election, let's make this an election issue. That's fine. But I'm going to say to you, we should at least try to work with all the information, with all stakeholders in a progressive manner. There's no need to do this today. We can do this 2 weeks from today. It'll make no difference to the province. It'll make no difference because March 1st is our deadline. So I'm moving a deferral till the next council meeting so that we can hear from IO to give the mayor the opportunity to give us a report back so that we can have perhaps more opportunity to engage back in a pragmatic nature to get the result that we want working with the province, as opposed to being saying we're not going to do it or just we need more time, because they're saying you've had lots of time. You've had 16 years. So I say that we refer it to get resident input, to hear from in Infrastructure Ontario, maybe to engage our MPPs, maybe figure out a plan, because again, as you see other municipalities, they're all over it. They're all over it. They're all over it. We're not. We're so busy protesting that we're not damaging.
That's time. So I've got a deferral motion then. I think 10 hours ago, we discussed putting this off, but is there a seconder for a deferral motion at this time? Someone willing to second that?
No one's going to go for a deferral. You guys want to roll on the punches on this and you may have more information for no reason. You don't want resident input. You don't want people's feedback. So if residents get mad like hell, I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, our council does not want resident input because there's no reason why we don't have that today. Okay,
Councilman,
long as we're clear.
your time's up.
You guys don't want public input on Highway 7 and Young.
You can't-
Got it.
That's your
Just like we're not in a housing crisis. Got it.
interpretation. Okay, Councillor Silovitz, you're wanting to speak next?
Thank you. Councillor Munch, I look at this, and I think the rest of the other members of council who are with us this evening look at this as a starting point. This is about public consultation. By approving this motion, the mayor will be able to call a special council meeting where we can get input from IO. Every resident who wants to come and speak to this can speak to it. We have had so many articles in the newspaper of residents who are totally engaged and are participating in this, who want to speak. The whole point of this, and I understand you may see this differently, but I don't. The whole point of this is a kickstart. It's a jump off point. And I fully expect that within maybe even next week, we can have a special council meeting and we can have all of this discussion, hopefully with the rest of council as well.
So point of order?
What?
Point of order?
Okay, a point of order, Councillor Munch.
I must have the wrong motion. So I don't see any motion here that's saying a special council meeting. Is this a
No.
motion?
No, it doesn't say
Councillor
that.
Silovitz didn't say that. That's not a point of order. She
Not what I
said
said.
she could see that possibly happening as a result of this.
But the motion doesn't say that.
No, I know.
Are
the
we
motion
speaking to
doesn't
the
say
motion?
Councillor Silovitz did not say the motion says that. She is speaking to the motion. Councillor Munch, that's not.
Okay, what I'm hearing is public consultation. If there's nothing in this motion, it's public consultation.
Okay.
that. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Munch. I've ruled on your point of order. Go ahead, Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Councillor DePaulo. I think Councillor Munch is perhaps just misunderstanding what I'm saying. We are at a point now, if we approve, when and if we approve this particular motion in front of us, it will enable us to get all of that done before March the 1st and have the consultations that are needed. This is a starting point. And I have absolutely no doubt that Mayor West is, and Councillor Chan is the second, and Deputy Mayor DePaulo, that they are absolutely on top of this, and that will come. But this must be approved tonight. There's no deferral. We're under the gun. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silovitz. Okay, so before I pass it back to Mayor West, I do want to just add a couple of things. I agree 100% with Councillor Silovitz. I think it's like there's a meteor coming to the earth it's going to hit us on March 1st. Well, so we've got, why talk about it today? We've got 3 weeks. Let's talk about it 2 weeks from now. It's just I don't understand that reasoning that we would put this off for one more moment. I do agree that Mayor West is taking the right approach as a starting point. I'm hoping there's a lot more that we could do. I'm hoping that we can engage our residents in a meaningful way and send a message to Queen's Park. I don't know how we do it through Daisy Way's office or what can be done, but we need to, in my opinion, beg and plead that the province not impose this on us here in Richmond Hill. I know how our residents feel that this is something that they were opposed to our Vision 2041 because it was perceived as too much too fast. And this is twice as much and twice as fast. They're 10 times as fast. This is no engagement. This is no public process. So Mayor West is scrambling to put something in place in the absence of any process at all. And I support it, and I'll turn it over to you, Mayor West, to conclude.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear and address what Councillor Munch was saying. And I've said this a few times. I guess maybe he hasn't understood what I was saying, whatever. But the negotiations that are happening in Markham and with York Region are happening now and have been happening for a bit of time already. If we put this off to a later date, even a week from now, even a few days from now, whatever, that will be that many less days that we have to negotiate and collaboratively work with the province. So that's a fact. And you can have a different alternative view of that fact. That's your call. But my view of the fact is that the negotiations are happening right now. We don't have a council position. It would be helpful to have a council position. And I know the staff's done a great job and will continue to do a great job. But if we're going to go into a negotiation, we want to go into a negotiation as best prepared as we can. This will help, I believe. I want to just be clear, York Region and the City of Markham have put motions similar to this in already expressing.
Point of order, please.
Okay.
Mr. Acting Mayor, you have a point of order?
I'm sorry. You have a point of order, Councillor Munch. Not a disagreement in what
The document that I have in front of me that we're talking about has not one word of any of that. So I understand that I hear the word negotiation. I hear that things are going on. This motion does not speak to any of that. So
Okay.
am I looking at a different motion, or are you talking to somebody else? Because I just read the document, had to have been 25 times.
Well, come on, Councillor, that's not a point of order. Mayor West is.
What are we talking about then? Tell me we're talking, because we're not talking about the motion.
He's again saying that the motion will put him in a position to negotiate on our behalf.
It doesn't say that here, sir. Show me where it says, please. Show me, give me one. There's 6 points on this motion. Nothing on that point say that.
Mayor West was quite clear. He said this council should take a position so that he can then go and do what he needs to do.
Well, then can you change the motion to say that then, please?
For this council. It doesn't need to be changed.
Well, hold
Councilor,
on.
you had a point of order. That's my ruling.
Hold on.
Mayor West has the floor.
Whoa.
Councilor Munch, you spoke twice for
How
5
can we be
minutes.
having a debate here? My point of motion is that there's a statement made by the mover that is not in the motion. The mover is the mayor, and the mayor's not. So is the mayor going to be doing something other than the motion is stating? That's my question.
Okay,
Is the mayor going to be doing something that is not in this motion?
okay.
Because that's clearly.
My ruling is the motion is the motion, and the mayor can say.
Because I'm going to accept what the mayor says, and I'm going to vote against the motion now because the mayor wants empowerment, but that's not what this motion says.
You're entitled to vote as you like, but you're not entitled to interrupt further and argue. Go ahead, Mayor West.
Please.
Okay, just to finish up, who has the floor now? Councillor
Mayor
Munch?
West,
Thank you.
You have the
So,
floor.
Just to wrap up, I appreciate the support. I know that Councillor Chan and Regional and Local Councillor DePaulo know this material well. You guys have been on Regional Council through the entire time that this has gone through. You were there when the region of York put their motion. I believe they were the first to make their council's position known to the province. Anyway, there's a lot been said today. I've said quite a bit as well. I think this is the right thing to do. I appreciate council support, and I look forward to moving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor West. Mayor West, a recorded vote was asked for, so Mr. Kirk, please call the roll so we can vote on this, and I can give the chair back to Mayor West. You're muted, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, you're muted.
My apologies.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I do need to clarify who requested the recorded vote. I saw. Thank you. So voting on the motion, Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barros is absent. Regional and Local Councillor Prelli is absent. Councillor Munch.
No.
Thank you. And Councillor Liu?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion does carry.
All right.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Regional Local Councillor DiPaolo. So at this point in time, Mr. Pike, if you could help me.
Yes.
We have got some bylaws that we can deal with now.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you can deal with the bylaws. However, council should not pass bylaws 16.5, 16.6, or 16.7 as shown on the agenda. Bylaw numbers 25-22, 26-22, and 27-22. Those were optional bylaws if council decided to do a by-election. So bylaws 16.1 through 16.4 and 16.8 are in order.
Okay, so can I get a motion to that? Councillor Chan, seconder, Councillor Silovitz for bylaw 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and can we can't do 18.1 yet, right?
No.
Okay. All right, so we have a in-camera session.
You need the vote, please.
Right, sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That carries unanimously. At this point, we have an in-camera session.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. There is an item on the agenda for closed session.
So we'll move, we need a motion to move into closed session.
And yeah, if you would just allow me to read the resolution for the benefit of the public and to move into closed session to consider personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees and labor relations or employee negotiations pursuant to sections 239 2B and D of the Municipal Act 2001.
Okay, so Councillor Silovitz moved, Councillor Liu second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. All right, so members of the public, we will be back at some point in the not too distant future, I hope, to conclude the meeting, but we are going into to closed session right now.
And if I might, Mr. Mayor, for the better, for the information of members of council, you should have received a separate Zoom link for the closed session. Just in case it's been lost in your email, I think we have just resent it to you. So this Zoom meeting will end.